These are the plaintiffs, Donna Speakerman and Garrett Van Alstyne. They say the defendant, their former landlord from you-know-where, turned the water off on them, turned the heat off on them, and then evicted them just like that, without warning. Try as they might, they've been unable to reach the defendant because he left the country, and left the country with their security deposit, and they want it back. So they're suing for $5,000, double their original security, and pain and suffering. This is the defendant, Gustavo Codina. He says he was out of the country working as a submarine telecommunications cable engineer. That's when the plaintiffs decided they were going to be moving out of the apartment he rented them. All this business about cutting their heat and hot water off and evicting them? Utter nonsense. He owes nothing. He's accused of having a short fuse.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case in the docket, the plaintiff says the landlord turned the water and heat off on them and now won't return their security. But the defendant says he didn't do it. It's the case of H20 No.
Thank you, Douglas. Okay, Donna Speakerman and Garrett Van Alstyne?
Yes, ma'am.
You are suing Gustavo Codina for $5,000, double your security deposit of $1,550 that you say you're due, plus pain and suffering of $1,900. I guess to bring you up to the $5,000. Tell me what's going on.
I'll start from the beginning, Your Honor. June 1st, 2012, we signed a lease with Mr. Codina. It was a 6-month lease. Everything was fine. The apartment was great. We loved it. November, I notified him about a few issues that I was having.
What were they?
Really small. One
Okay.
was the heater. I notified him about that. In that November conversation with Mr. Codina, he notified me that he was going to write up a new lease, a new 6-month lease. We were fine with that. We liked the apartment. We liked the area. It was close for everybody, so it was great. We never received that lease. He never wrote up a lease. So at that point, we were just going month to month. At that point, I have, text messages from Mr. Codina on the date of February 22nd. At that point, he messaged me that he was going to be lowering our rent from
Lowering it?
Yes, ma'am, from $1,550 to $1,300. But then we would pay for our own utilities. I have the text message here. We were okay with that. March 2nd came around, and I was in the middle of getting ready for a little dinner thing that we were having. All of a sudden, my water gets turned off. I was in the shower, and nothing was running. My faucet in the bathroom, kitchen, nothing was on. So I went outside and noticed that the apartment to the attic upstairs was open. So I wandered upstairs, and I saw somebody working on one of the water lines. Obviously, the individual had turned the water off. I asked him to turn it back on. I had people coming over.
Are you nasty?
Yes, ma'am. Yep. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I was at that point, I was a little irate. I was in a towel waiting I had friends coming over in a half hour.
I dropped the towel just to get him to move faster.
Would have sped up the process.
Well, if I dropped the towel, I might not move faster, but go ahead.
He would have gone a little quicker, yes. And that was on the 4th. I then text messaged him. He needs to notify me whenever he is turning off.
You hadn't received any notice?
Nothing at all. Nothing
what was the story with that?
Well, the story with that was that my handyman who's here knocked on the door. That's why he's here. And no one answered the door.
Yeah, but typically speaking, what you do is you'd give them a notice that 48 hours from now we're going to do a repair, so you're not going to have water from X to X. Sorry for the inconvenience. You didn't do that?
I understand that. I did not know.
What was the repair he was doing?
He was blow torching and closing off a water main upstairs, a water valve.
So that's not an emergency. That's something that could be scheduled that you could notify. Okay.
It's not.
I mean, the guy's all soaped up, so he's a little annoyed. So he was a little less than polite. And then what happened?
Yes, ma'am. Got done, sent a text message.
You sent who a text message?
Mr. Codina.
Oh, I'd like to see that. Do you have that?
Sure. I do have it.
Can I see it?
As well?
I'd have to turn on my...
Turn on your phone. Let me see your transcript of the text message.
I believe I was extremely polite.
I can't have the guy turning off the water without notice. I have friends here. Okay, that's fine.
Yes,
Did
ma'am.
you two have a fight on the phone?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me about that. You tell me about that.
Basically, I received a call from my handyman, basically stating that Mr. Van Alstyne had gotten in his face, had cursed him. He felt physically threatened, and at that point, I told him, just leave.
All right, so you curse him out. What did you say to him?
So, does a husband have a duty to keep things calm while the wife is very pregnant?
I mean, the husband has to be calm at all times. It doesn't matter if anybody's pregnant or not.
Does it matter? I mean, does it matter when they're pregnant?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say, but let me say this.
No. Let's stick to the point.
Okay, he should be calm. I have to agree with.
If he argues with the landlord's about to throw them out. Is he inconsiderate to his wife?
Yeah, you don't want to be pregnant and homeless. It's not.
Yeah, pregnant and homeless is a bad combo. Going inside the courtroom.
I used an improper word.
Which one?
Word. I said, I need you to go turn the water on. And I used
Does he
word
talk
before
like this
water.
all the time? Like, how would that, like, what could you do? The guy is an employee. Why would you talk to him like that?
Well, it was
I'm
the
surprised
second.
you talked to him like
Yes,
that
ma'am.
and to him like this. It was the other way around.
Yeah, it was.
All right,
it was
fine.
this-
So now
yeah.
after that, you two get into a fight, and tell me about the fight that you two get into. I want to hear from
Well,
you.
it wasn't the first time that there were some issues with this type of aggression by Mr. Van Alsten. In the middle of the day, the lights were turned on in the hallway, and I would ask him nicely, could you please turn off the lights of the hallway during the daytime because I was paying for the electrical bill, and he would answer me with in these methods like. I don't want to fall down the stairs and break my neck or something like that. And I have text pages like this.
Let me see your text messages that say that. I want to see those. All right, you tell me about the discussion you had with him.
If I may, on that note of the light situation, and it was an issue that I understood where Ms. Codina was coming from. My wife, at that point, she was pregnant during the whole time of the disputes. It was only one control for the light, and it was all the way upstairs. Turn the light on, walk downstairs, and leave. I can't go back upstairs, turn the light off, then walk downstairs. It didn't make any sense to me, and I wasn't going to go up and down the stairs all day. And the same thing for my wife. She was pregnant, and I didn't want anything to happen to her, so I would leave the lights on.
All right, so now, at this point, when things are going bad in March, you are how pregnant?
6.5 months pregnant.
Yeah. Well, let me tell. What is the last thing a 6.5-month pregnant woman wants to do?
Walk up the stairs.
Well, that too, and move. Okay.
Move,
So
yeah.
perhaps you should chill
Yes,
a
ma'am.
little, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Because for you to butt heads with your landlord on a month-to-month lease when your wife is pregnant. All right. So now you're having your head butting with him over numerous issues. They turned off the water to do that pipe when?
He did that March 2nd.
March 2nd. On March 4th, you receive a new lease.
Yes, ma'am.
And the new lease now has a jack up in the price.
Yes, ma'am. I was paying $1,550,
And
everything
what was it?
included, and I had storage in the basement.
Okay, and now it was going to be what?
I have the lease here. It was $1,700, nothing included.
plus
and
you have to pay your own utilities.
And I had, pay the only utilities, and I lost my
Okay,
storage
but
in the
he can
basement.
make it $1 million, right? Because it's
Sure.
a month to month.
Yes.
He could just say, I don't like you.
Right.
I don't
Which
like
is-
how you talk to my handyman. You are a jerk, and I don't want you in my midst. You have 30 days to get out,
Which is
right?
exactly
That's what
what
a
he did.
month to
Yes,
month
ma'am.
means.
Yep.
Okay. So you get on March 4th the new lease, and what else does it say?
I pretty much stopped reading it at that point. I wasn't too happy at that point, so I don't recall the rest of the
So you
details of the
text
lease.
him, what do you think you're doing with this lease?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know what planet you're living in, Mr. Van Alsten, when I see you texting your landlord. That's not what my lease says. You don't have a lease. It was 6 months. It wasn't renewed. You're on a month to month. If it is the same, then leave it alone at $1,550. You don't want to make enemies. What the hell does that mean? Sure sounds like a threat. But what are you doing? You have a pregnant wife who doesn't want to have to move out in the middle of her sick. Are you nuts?
felt
You
like
don't
we
want
were
to make
getting-
enemies. Oh, yeah, no, that's the way I'm going to keep you in my apartment if
I
I'm
felt-
your landlord.
You're right, Your Honor, and in front of everybody, I do apologize for that. It was,
You
that was
should.
very immature.
How about for, especially, did you have the baby?
2 weeks ago.
Oh, congratulations. Boy or girl?
Boy.
Okay, you want to be a role model for that boy?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, okay. In any event. And then do you two talk to each other?
Negative. He didn't. I haven't heard. I didn't hear from him from.
Now,
From
according to you,
March
you
2nd?
text him and tell him you can get out on April 4th?
The April 4th date was the time that they had to make a decision whether they were going to sign the new lease
Okay,
or,
and that
or
we
provide
know
me
that
30
because
days.
you had a cover letter with the lease?
Yeah, I had a notice to quit.
Can I see the notice to quit?
Sure.
Okay, because it's dated March 4th, it says you have until April 4th. And then you guys get this, and he says, she desire to continue occupancy, I request an increase in your monthly rental of $1,700 plus utilities. So clearly this was an act intended to punish you for disrespecting him or whatever, or his handyman or whatever else. So then what happens? You do what?
We were looking at maybe trying to discussed this, and I was going to apologize to him. Never returned any phone calls. I was out of line, and there is no excuse for that.
When do you start calling him?
Around March 14th, but it was mostly due to the fact I have all the phone records here for the heat being turned off.
What happened with the heat?
Just didn't work.
It was turned off or it didn't work? It broke or it was turned off? Which is it?
We have no idea.
So you tried calling him. How many numbers did you have for him?
One.
And he wouldn't return your calls?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you text him?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So when do you finally hear from him?
The 26th of March, we received a phone call, and he actually called my wife and stated that he was out of the country. And I do have
You
all
were
the
out of
phone
the country
records.
from when to when?
I was out of the country from March 14th to April 2nd in the middle of the Caribbean Ocean.
Okay. Why are you keeping their, what were you doing?
I'm a submarine cable engineer, and we were doing a survey to put a fiber optic cable between Panama and Colombia. So
Yeah. Like a superhero or something. All right. Okay, so that's why he can't reach you, but
Right.
he doesn't have any other number for you. All right, and then you find out that he's moving out, and part of the reason that you're keeping a month is because, according to you, he didn't give you good notice.
correct.
But you gave him notice.
But they have the option of either staying for that month and paying the old rent and then telling me, I'm giving you 30 days
Staying
notice.
for what month?
For the month of April.
What you told them is now resides, request that as of April 4th, you quit the unit and give up peaceable possession thereof. And that's what they did. They got out. And then you kept their $1,550 because you didn't tell me you were getting out. No. However, having said that, you don't get pain and suffering on a contracts case. And you don't get double because that's only when he doesn't send a letter explaining why he's keeping it. And he did send a letter explaining why he's keeping it. Okay? Pay the people. $1,550, verdict for the plaintiff.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So the plaintiffs have gotten back their security deposit, and that's it, even though they sued for a lot more. What's your reaction?
My reaction was that I was under the impression that the facts and the law were clearly on my side, and I still believe this. Apparently, the judge didn't agree with me.
All right, well, you learned something. We learned that submarine, that cable,
Yeah.
that stuff, that's pretty impressive stuff.
It's interesting stuff, yes.
Our internet is a little slow here. Could you do something?
Maybe I could do something. Maybe I could help out.
All right.
Thank you.
Around the corner over there. All right, so come on in here. You satisfied? You didn't get everything you sued for. You went for the jackpot.
We did.
And you came out with your security deposit.
That's actually, we're more than happy with that.
Like the judge said, I'm not from this planet, so I just aim for the stars. That's
All right.
that's the way I look at it.
How's the baby?
He's doing great. He's in the other room right now.
All right, good. All right, head over
Thank you.
there. I know
Thank you
that's
very
where you
much.
want to go. Harvey?
Okay, real simply, you can only get pain and suffering, which is what these people were asking for some kind of personal injury. This is a contract case. You can't get it for that. That will do it for this case. Litigants for the next case on the way into the courtroom right now.